Well, there's renewed hope that long-standing Chinese trade sanctions on Australian exports will soon be abolished as the Foreign Minister heads to China. Senator Penny Wong will fly to the Chinese capital tomorrow, the first Australian minister to visit in 3 years. For more, Andrew Green joins us tonight outside the Chinese embassy. Hi there, Andrew. What can we expect from this visit?
Catherine, this is a highly significant visit and comes as the relationship between China and Australia gradually thaws following those trade sanctions that were slipped on to Australia at the height of the COVID pandemic. It will be a very bizarre trip, though. The foreign minister's heading over for less than 24 hours. She'll be confined to a very tight COVID bubble. That's because the Chinese capital is gradually easing out of restrictions. There'll be a meeting with Wang, her Chinese counterpart, and the pair are expected to, of course, discuss those trade sanctions with a hope of them lifting early in the new year.
And Andrew, what of the high-profile Australians being held by Chinese authorities?
This is certainly also high on the agenda. That is namely Chung Lei, the Australian journalist who's been detained since last year, and also Yang Hengjun, a democracy activist who has been incarcerated for some time now. The cases of both those Australians will be discussed, and their supporters are hopeful that there may be some form of breakthrough, at least more consular access, leading possibly to their freedom in the near future.
Andrew Green, thank you very much. And for more on the Foreign Minister's visit to Beijing, I'm joined from Canberra by Allan Behm from the Australia Institute, who was a senior advisor to Penny Wong when she was Shadow Foreign Minister. Hi there, Allan. It's nice to see you. Thanks for your time.
Good afternoon, Catherine. Thank you.
Now, this is the third meeting that Minister Wong will have had with her counterpart since Labor took office. Just how significant will this one be in Beijing coming up?
Look, I think Andrew Green got it absolutely correct. It is a very significant visit, coming as it does on top of the most important meeting between Prime Minister Albanese and President Xi in Bali not very long ago, and Senator Wong's own meeting with her counterpart a little bit earlier, and all of the work that's been done really since the election in May. So it caps off, I think, an extremely important year for the Foreign Minister and a very important year for Australia.
And it also obviously coincides with Senator Wong's meeting to coincide with the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between our country and China. Just how significant is that?
Look, the symbolism means a lot in foreign policy, as in everything else. This is a symbolic visit in some respects, but occasionally the symbolism actually is the business. And here we have 50 years since Gough Whitlam actually instructed our embassy in Paris to sign the exchange with China that led to full recognition and an exchange of embassies. This is a very significant thing because apart from our relationship with the United States, our relationship with China is probably our most important international relationship. It certainly is economically, but also strategically and politically. So this is a big visit.
So do you expect this meeting to result then in any policy changes? I mean, how likely is it that these sanctions might be lifted?
Look, I don't expect it to happen the day after tomorrow. I think that what we will see is, and this is quite normal in the conduct of diplomacy, these things will change gradually over time. And I think the reason for that, Catherine, is pretty straightforward. Nobody wants to appear to be losing face or taking a major victory. It's just always managed in a very careful way, so that I would expect over the next month or so we'll have a lifting of those sanctions on trade commodities, but also we'll see some forward movement, I strongly suspect, with respect to the two detainees that Andrew mentioned just a moment ago.
So what won't be on the agenda then, Allan? I mean, is there any chance that China's activity in the South China Sea will be brought up, or indeed the conflict or Russia's war on Ukraine?
Look, I think that the agenda will probably be reasonably far-reaching. I think Senator Wong will probably raise, in the very careful terms that she does, the situation in the South China Sea and the need for a much more ameliorative approach on the part of China. I would think that she'll raise our concerns about the progress of the war in Ukraine. And I think she will also talk about the need for proper signal giving across Asia, which is, of course, the part of the world that both China and Australia share from a geostrategic point of view. I would think all of that will come into the conversation, but it will be a pleasant, professional, business-like conversation, and the agenda will be carefully curated and calibrated, I think.
The opposition Foreign Affairs spokesperson Simon Birmingham has said that Minister Wong's visit will be judged on progress towards the removal of unwarranted tariffs and sanctions on Australian exports, achieving fair and transparent treatment of Australians currently detained in China. What would you consider a successful meeting to look like?
Look, I think the very fact that it's happening does betoken a very important new development. The Senator has been talking about stabilisation in the relationship. I think that this visit is going to take stabilisation a little bit of a step forward, and that is that between herself and Foreign Minister Wong, they will be putting down the frameworks for a new normality, a new normalisation in the relationship, not going back to the past, but moving forward into the future. And so there will be movement on trade and on other political matters, but I think it will be done in a calibrated, managed way so that we don't have shock news immediately, but rather a restoration of a mature, business-like relationship over the next couple of months.
Allan, always great speaking with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Catherine.
Allan Behm is from the Australia Institute.